This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, and for this special edition of a Skype Great North Wrestling podcast, we have the legendary, most famous wrestling reporter in history, I would say, and most well-respected Bill Apter.
Well,
How are
thank
you?
you. It's great. I am thrilled to be. This is the second or third time I've been on the Hannibal product, so to say. I know
Third,
David
for sure.
Penzer. Yeah, David Penzer has interviewed me a few times, and it's great to be here. I'm a big fan, Hannibal.
That's excellent. Well, I'm a big fan too, and I actually interviewed you the second time, but I didn't have the book.
Yeah,
But
that's
today,
right. You know
yeah.
what? I got one too. I went out to Barnes and Noble. I bought one, and no, actually, I got this one on Amazon.
Right. And I'm going to bring this next week to the Markout at the Meadowlands, where I understand you're going to be signing copies of this for any fan that comes next Sunday before WrestleMania. I think it's at the Plaza
At the
Hotel.
Meadowlands Plaza Hotel. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be brought there by Scott Wilder Promotions, and I've hooked up. Scott has made me part of the family there, and I will be there along with some other people, some other legends that he's bringing there, like the Tonga Kid. And yeah, like you said, if people have the book, they can bring it, and I will sign it. And if they don't have the book, then you can buy it right there, and I'll sign it personally right there. And the name of the book is Wrestling Fix. What's the answer?
I didn't know it was broken.
Exactly, you got it. So that means I'm definitely staying on this show now for the rest of the night. No, but
And one,
it's going to be a great group of legends that are going to be there. Last 2 weeks ago, I was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, one of the conventions that Bud Carson ran, and Scott Wilder Promotions. And Scott is bringing me to a Markout at the Meadowlands. He had the Tonga Kid there. Um, he had Lloyd Anoa'i there. He had so many super talents there, and now I'm part of LA Smooth is Lloyd Anoa'i, and he had so many great stars there. But at this one, at Markout at the Meadowlands, there's going
Jim
to
Ross, he's
Jim,
going
well,
to be
Jim
there.
Ross is the headliner. Good old JR. He is the headliner. Tully Blanchard's going to be there. And if some of you people watching this are millennials and you're not sure who Tully Blanchard is, he's the father of Tessa Blanchard. Not the stepfather, because stepfather is Magnum TA. That's amazing, right? Tully Blanchard is Tessa's
I
father.
actually asked Tully Blanchard about that when I did the shoot interview with him a few years ago, and he said he can't explain that one to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And
That's a
Stan
weird one.
Hansen, the Lariat, Stan Hansen's going to be there. And he made his fame by breaking the neck of Bruno Sammartino. Tito Santana, Missy Hyatt. Were you in love with her growing up?
Uh, a little bit, but I was more of a sunny guy. But unfortunately, I've heard about her latest problems, and it's a really sad situation.
It is, and I love her to death. I've known Sunny for since she was a teenager, going out with Chris Candido, and I want to send her, if she's watching this, um, all my love and saying hope things get better in your life.
What do you think is the issue? Do you think it's just being an alcoholic? Do you think there has to be some psychological issue at this point?
It's hard for me to comment because I don't know. I'm not I always tell people I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I knew her through the business. I knew she and Chris personally, and you never know where life takes you, but it's nothing that I can really say it's because of this or because of that, because I don't know.
I actually read online that you did a 90-minute interview with her at one point. I believe that's probably the one you're referring to. What was it like to speak with her for 90 minutes?
Oh, well, I've talked with her longer than that. I mean, I've been around her for days at a time. That was back when I went back to the Pro Wrestling Illustrated family of magazines for a little bit, and I did an interview with her, and she was great. She was very candid about everything. We didn't really talk about what you're talking about right now because I think that a lot of people know that throughout my career, I've pretty much stayed to the wrestling end of it. I haven't been one of these guys that goes into the, oh, well, this one, takes drugs and this one did that. And hey, Bill, did you ever see anyone taking steroids? I never got into that because I have a love for this business. I've always protected the business and never really dealt with that side of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why you're probably the most respected wrestling journalist of all
Well,
time
thank you.
because you don't have the heat that comes along with going into that other side. I cross into both sides, so
I
um,
know you do. People have tried to get me to cross over on the other side on my podcasts and stuff, and there's that wall. I won't go there. And that's why my book is Wrestling Fixed. I didn't know it was broken. Is a nice, friendly book. There are issues that I had with a lot of wrestlers like Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, but it's not handled in a way where we're talking like we're talking about Sonny. But I love Sonny to death, and I just hope she recovers.
and another sad thing that I don't really want to make this a sad interview, but I got to ask you about King Kong Bundy. He was scheduled to be part of this
Yeah,
event, but he unfortunately passed away. Do you have
it's
any?
dedicated to him. This show is dedicated to him, and yeah, another. We almost went 2 weeks without a wrestling death, and unfortunately, just a few days before we're taping this, one of my real dear friends, Terry Funk, lost his wife Vicky, and want to send out my love to the Funk family. I talked to Terry yesterday, and I don't know if you were aware of that, but I knew Vicky probably since 1970, 1971.
Oh, wow. I've only spoken to her on the phone when I've called the house and she's answered some of the times. She would be the screener some of the times for
Oh
the.
yeah, yeah. No, she was great. He would have said, Vicky, if that Hannibal guy calls, give me the phone. You get a little Terry Funk
Oh,
imitation.
he's actually afraid of me, so he would run away from the phone. He actually told me that I gave him the worst beating he ever had in pro wrestling. That's why he never came back and wrestled for Great North Wrestling again after I was through with him.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. You know who else is going to be, by the way, at Markout at the Meadowlands? The son of Ivan Putski, Scott Putski. I haven't seen him in years, and I'm looking forward to interviewing him and find out what his dad is up to these days. Polish Power.
I've seen pictures of him, and he looks very lean, very thin these days, but very healthy. And
There's another
Scott,
guy. There's another guy. When I first started at the magazines, there was a guy named Bob Roop who wrestled for Eddie Graham in Florida. And when I first met him, Mr. Weston, my mentor who ran the magazines, ran a story, and he had a wanted poster, wanted for murder, for attempted murder, Bob Roop. And he was one of the toughest guys ever. And I haven't seen him in about 35 years. I'm very, very anxious to see him.
I actually met Bob Roop last year in Iowa at the Iowa Hall of Fame. He's a really nice guy. His neck is still as thick as ever. But that reminds me, I got to ask you about this Plan B video that has come out in
By the way,
recent
wait a minute.
months.
I'm in that Hall of Fame. So I don't know if you know that.
Yes, you're the
Yes,
Jim Melby Award winner.
yes, yes. Very proud to be part of that.
Yeah. But I was going to ask you about this Plan B video because you were the journalist at that time. What would have happened if that video had gone public in the late 70s?
I don't know enough about this Plan B video. I heard some ramblings about it, but I don't know enough about it to
Okay.
comment. I really don't.
Apparently, I'll just fill you in because I interviewed Ron Fuller, and it was during the Knoxville Territory
Yeah, I've
War.
heard
They
about
made
this. Go
this
ahead.
video, and they were going to possibly thinking about possibly releasing it, but they never did. And Ron says he doesn't know why they didn't if they made it because they ended up losing the war anyways, and that would have finished off Ron there. But for whatever reason, they didn't release it.
Well, it was a territory back then, and every territory really did have a Plan B, but they didn't all film it. I mean, they were all no matter what you hear, because I was around in the territorial days. Every promotion was jealous of the other promotion, so they all wanted to be better and get the guys, and it was just amazing. But I lived through the whole territory system, and it was the greatest part of my career. I loved it.
And it was great for wrestlers too, because people like me wouldn't have to work regular jobs in those days because there was a lot more jobs for
Oh,
all of
yeah.
us.
Yeah, one night you'd be in Continental, one night you'd be in Jim Crockett Promotions, another night you'd be working for Ole Anderson in Georgia. Yeah, it was tremendous. And when you dried up and nobody wanted you, you went to Japan.
And one guy that's going to be on this show that I got to ask you about, not this show, but this autograph event, is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And it's a big rumor that they're going to announce tomorrow he's actually going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Have you
Well, wait
heard
a
it?
minute. Wait, you said tomorrow. When is this being aired? Is this Sunday
I'm
night?
going to put this up probably by early morning, as so I
Oh, that's
guess
great.
later today. Yeah.
That's great. Oh, I hope it's true. I've heard the rumblings and ramblings all about that too. He definitely deserves it because when you talk about when wrestling was in the baby formative days of sports entertainment, he was one of the lead people to bring the wrestling business into the sports entertainment business, which made it a zillion-dollar business, as you know. So yeah, and before that, of course, I met him in when he wrestled for Jim Crockett Promotions as Ed Leslie, if I could pronounce that, I would say that. Really, really great guy, and he's had an incredible career. And yeah, he absolutely deserves it. When you talk about the people that are in the WWE Hall of Fame who had all these great gimmicks and legends like Roddy Piper, he belongs in there with the rest of them at this point. He really does.
And here's an interesting question for you. Out of all of Brutus's WCW gimmicks, was there one particular one you liked the most?
Oh, well, name some of them for me so I can go
The
down the
Man with
list.
No Name, the Butcher, the Disciple, the Zodiac, the Booty Man. I Those are the ones that come up to the top of my head.
Yeah, it was really just Brutus the Barber Beefcake that I was the fan of. I mean, the other guys they were all him, of course,
Right.
but they were all, it wasn't really him as far as
And
I'm concerned. His real personality shined as Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
right, the good side of his real personality, because I've been around the cranky side from time to time, which you may
Yeah,
have
well, just,
encountered.
we all have cranky sides once in a while, except for me. No.
And another guy that, speaking of WCW, kind of giving them gimmicks that didn't get over as much, John Nord, the Berserker, he's going to be at this
Oh, yeah.
convention.
Yeah. You
In
know,
WCW, they didn't use him really
no,
well.
I never understood he should have been one of the best bad guys in history. So I don't know what happened to him. I haven't seen him for years. I did an interview with him, which you can catch on OneWrestlingVideo.com, probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I'm anxious to not only meet with the fans and sign autographs and do wrestling impressions and entertain everybody, but I'm interested in interviewing a lot of these guys as well.
Well, I'm actually conducting full shoot interviews with the Berserker the night before, as well as another guy we haven't mentioned yet, Butch Reed, who's also going to be there.
Hacksaw Butch Reed, great. And his part of Doom, a lot of people remember him for, but to me, his best days were in the days that he wrestled in the Bill Watts territory.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, the interesting thing is because I'm interviewing Nord and Butch Reed, is they actually had that famous fight in Bill Watts' territory behind the scenes. So I'm going to get both sides of that, which
They
I'm sure
did.
the fans are interested to hear.
And do you know that Butch Reed actually is a rodeo guy?
No, I did not.
Talk to him about it. Yeah, he's a cowboy.
Really, that's
Yeah,
very
years
interesting.
and years ago, he used to do rodeo. He and I used to talk about it all the time.
Now, as for this year's WWE Hall of Fame, going off the subject of the convention for a while, it looks like the Honky Tonk Man's going in. That's official finally. And
That's great.
China's going in as part of DX. Just your thoughts on those two.
I mean, fabulous. I'm glad that, Sean should be in with or without DX. I followed his career from the beginning, long before, back when he was in the AWA, and when he came and had that great 1, 2, 3 kid with that incredible win over Razor Ramon. It was just, he belongs in there. And people have asked me, they said, does China belong? Hell yes. My goodness, it's about time they found a way to put China in the WWE Hall of Fame. She belongs there as a single. She belongs there as part of the group. Without China being part of that group, I think it was Billy Gunn who said without her, he wouldn't even want to be in there. So I'm so glad that she is part of that. Yeah.
And you've mentioned throughout this interview that you're going to be doing interviews as well. Do you want to tell people where they can follow you on social media and check
Well,
out
of
your interview?
course, I'm at on Twitter at Apter, no N in it. It's so many people from down south because Dusty Rhodes once on an interview called me Willie Apner, if you will. And now people down south call me Apner. There's no N in it. It's Apter. So it's at Apter One Wrestling. That's the number one, not the word. A lot of rules there. Apter One Wrestling. People can email me at beapter@onewrestling.com. You can follow me, my video interviews on onewrestlingvideo.com. And of course, Hannibal, you know I do a weekly podcast, correct?
Yes, I've actually heard numerous, and I actually heard you on Steve Austin's podcast not too long ago.
What? Gotcha. No, that's an older interview, but the Apter Chat, just go to the apterchat.com. And the big news is that just broke, there's a new Roku station called Jarrett Parsons Wrestling. Jarrett as in Jerry Jarrett. He and his partner, Dave Rock Parsons, have started a Roku channel. And if you look under pro wrestling on Roku, you won't find it. You have to look under Jarrett Parsons Wrestling, and you'll find it. And they've got about 15 different old territories on there. And yeah, and the Bill Apter show with a lot of my old interviews and some new interviews will be coming to the Jared Parsons Network probably right after WrestleMania.
And what I like about your podcast is sometimes you actually play the recorded interviews from the past.
Oh, you know what? Can you hang on for 1 second?
Of course.
Don't edit this. I will be right back. Hang on a minute.
Bill is, I hope he doesn't come back out naked or we're all going to be in trouble here. What is inside this room that Bill is going to bring out? Is it the gobbledygooker?
Into the archives. I
Here
haven't
it
shown
comes.
this to anybody. Into the archives. I have hundreds of these. This is cassette tapes back from the 70s and some of them from the mid 60s when I did the first wrestling radio show in New York. And all my old classic interviews are on here. And eventually I'm going to make an audio CD of those. But yeah, I do run them on the After Chat podcast every few weeks, and we get a great reaction to it.
Well, yes, that's definitely my favorite part.
This one's Bruno Sammartino and Ivan Koloff. Thank you.
Speaking of tapes, I actually mentioned a ghetto blaster to someone earlier today, and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Oh my goodness! Well, today that would be considered inappropriate.
Well, that is true, I guess, the terminology.
Yes.
And your favorite wrestler, of course, you mention him all the time in the book, used to be Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Can we get an impression?
Well, I will do my impression, but through the years, my favorite wrestlers run by generations. But yeah, you see, Pally, this is Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. All the guys out there, they might have the build, but they don't have it up here like the Nature Boy does. You know, recently somebody got me in touch with his old manager, Bobby Davis. And Bobby and I have been talking on the phone every few weeks, and I'm trying to get him to do an audio interview with me.
That would be great. I recently interviewed Dan O'Malley, who is a guy that he once fought Buster Douglas. He was also a pro wrestler. He works with the Arnold Sports Hall of Fame in Columbus, Ohio, but he was friends with Buddy Rogers, and he was telling me a lot of stories about Buddy. So it was just pretty cool that you knew him.
I knew. Now, you mentioned Buster Douglas. Beside the wrestling thing, you know, we also did Ring Magazine and 3 or 4 other boxing magazines back when I was at London Publishing. And the day after Buster Douglas beat, was it Spinks?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, right. Wasn't right. That's Mike Tyson. I'm sorry. I mean, so and the day after he did that, he came to New York and I did a half-hour posed photo session with him, which made the cover of Ring magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
What
Great
was
guy.
his reaction like?
I traveled with Ali. I traveled with Leon Spinks, with George Foreman, Jerry Quarry. Ali and I used to talk all the time. I used to look at him and go, "I like your speed. I like your style, but you'll pay so cheap. I went back for a while. You got great speed. You got endurance. If you sign to fight me, increase your insurance." Yeah, he used to get a kick out of when I did that.
Were you a bigger boxing fan or wrestling fan in those days?
No, wrestling. Wrestling. Boxing, I was not a fan of at all until I started shooting photos for boxing. I was a boxing fan because I was in the business and I got to meet people like Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and George Foreman and Jerry Quarry, all the greats. And man, but no, wrestling was, since I was a young kid, wrestling was, even though I'm an older kid now, it was always pro wrestling or sports entertainment.
Well, one of these days I'm gonna have to do a full career interview with you because
Would
it's
love
so
it.
detailed. It's gonna
Would,
have to be at least 4 hours,
would love it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. There's,
and it's gonna have to be in person so we don't have this issue.
oh, we'll do it. There's, you see that picture of me with Muhammad Ali in my book? Can you see that?
Yeah, you look like you're ready to take him on.
I'm the greatest of all time. So he was a huge wrestling fan. I used to talk wrestling with him quite a bit. And
Mike Tyson was too, apparently.
you know who else was a big wrestling fan? I photographed Mike Tyson when almost no one knew who he was, and we used to sit there and do wrestling imitations. He did a pretty good Dusty Rhodes, but I lent him 35 or 40 cents to get back home to Brooklyn, to get back home on the subway, and he never paid me back.
Well, you may have to collect if he's ever at a convention with you in the future. He was at a few conventions. I remember a video of superstar Billy Graham
Yeah, that
and
was a
Mike
wrestle
Tyson.
reunion.
Yes.
My buddy Sal Corrente. Yeah.
Yeah, and Billy Graham, he's still having a lot of health problems. I was just talking to him the other day. Unfortunately, his kidneys, there's some issue where he has to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes and his hip's gone.
Uh,
He really badly needs a hip operation. So it's awful to hear that stuff about him.
One of my favorite people of all time.
And you took a lot of the iconic photos of him as well.
Yeah, the ones with the red background. Those were
Yeah.
all mine. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know you're taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us, so I won't keep you any longer.
It's
And as I
always a
said,
pleasure talking to you.
and we hope that David Penzer could do a short interview with you, perhaps at the Markout at the
Oh,
Meadowlands
please.
next Sunday.
Yeah.
And I won't be doing interviews there, but I'm going to track you down and I'm going to have this book, and
We're
I'm going
doing
to
it.
force you to sign this for me.
We're doing it. Here, stuff it through the webcam there. Let me see. You got it? Stuff it through the webcam. It's right here.
We're pretty close to that kind of technology. Maybe one day that'll actually
Yeah.
happen.
We are, right now they have Open Table and all these DoorDash and everything. So one day you'll be able to call your favorite Italian restaurant or Chinese restaurant. Let's push it right through the webcam.
Exactly. Well, thank you very
Well, there's
much.
only one thing left to say. I'll see you at Markout at the Meadowlands.